Welcome back everyone to the channel dedicated to helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. Teaching you everything that you need to know about personal finance without all of the investing hype and fluff. So today we're going to be talking about what are the differences between a traditional versus a Roth retirement account. Now, a lot of different retirement accounts like a 401k or an IRA, an individual retirement account, they offer either type of retirement account. They offer traditional IRAs and they offer Roth IRAs. So what is the primary difference between a traditional and a Roth? And more importantly, which one is best for you? Now, unfortunately, there is no one size fits all. Everybody's personal finance situation is a little bit different. So there is going to be a set of pros and cons associated with each type of account. So let's take a broad overview look at the differences between these two accounts so that you can judge for yourself which one is likely going to be best for you. Now, if you didn't put your money into a retirement account, you just put it into a normal brokerage account, maybe you bought some stocks or something like that, and you didn't put it into a retirement account, you would ultimately get taxed 3 separate times on your money. And so here's the breakdown of how that would work. So the first time that you would be taxed is when you earn your money. So let's say that you make $20 an hour and you work for 40 hours that week, then you would have made $800. But we all know that you're not going to get cut a check at the end of that week for $800, right? Because your employer is going to withhold state and federal taxes, Social Security, and all kinds of different stuff. So you're not going to actually get $800, you're going to get a lot less because you're going to get taxed when you earn that money. And then you have some money left over at the end of the month after you pay your bills and you decide to invest that money, and you're going to get some sort of a return on that investment. So if you buy some stocks, maybe you get some dividends. So that's going to be the second time your money is taxed, is when you get those dividends, or if you're buying CDs or bonds, you're going to get some interest. Whatever it is, you're going to be taxed on that growth. And then the final time you're going to get taxed is when you sell that investment at some point down the line. You're going to get taxed on your capital gains. So let's say you buy a stock for $10 and then you later sell it for $15, you made a $5 profit, and so you're going to be taxed on that $5 that you make. So normally you would get taxed 3 separate times, and that sucks. And that's where retirement accounts come into play, because with a retirement account, either a traditional or a Roth, instead of being taxed 3 times, you're only going to be taxed once. The difference is, when are you going to be taxed? All right, so with a traditional account, you are not taxed when you earn your money. You are not taxed on any growth, that dividends, but you will be taxed at the end and your capital gains when you eventually start to withdraw that money in retirement account. However, with a Roth account, it is going to be the exact opposite. You get taxed immediately, but you will not pay taxes on your dividends or on your capital gains. So either way, you're only paying taxes once. It's just a matter of, are you going to pay it at the end when you are 60 plus and you're trying to retire? Or are you going to pay it immediately when you're earning money, maybe in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever the case may be, while you're earning that money? Which one is more beneficial? Now, if you are in the same tax bracket when you are retiring as when you are earning that money, it wouldn't matter. It would come out to be the exact same amount of money. The difference is if you are not in the same tax bracket. But first, let's show you how, if you were in the same tax bracket, how everything would still be the same. So let's say that you have an extra $5,000 and you're going to contribute that to a traditional IRA, and you're going to do that for, let's say, 10 years. So ultimately, you are going to deposit $50,000 into this traditional account over the course of 10 years. Now, in a traditional account, like I said, you don't pay taxes when you earn it. You don't pay taxes on dividends. You only pay taxes at the end. So let's skip to the end. And let's say that over the course of 30, 40, 50 years, however long this money is growing and compounding in your account, let's say this now has grown and is now worth $5 million, right? So your money has doubled 6-7 times, and you now have 100 times the amount of money that you had when you started with. But since you haven't paid taxes yet, you have to pay taxes when you actually take that money out in retirement. So let's say hypothetically you're in the 20% tax bracket, which would mean you pay $1 million in taxes, which leaves you with $4 million to actually live off of. Now let's go back to the same situation, $5,000 a year for 10 years, and look at a Roth account. But with a Roth account, you get taxed immediately. So you're not going to have a full $5,000. You're going to start with that $5,000, but you got to pay taxes on that money up front. So let's say that you're going to still pay 20% tax bracket, so you're going to have $40,000 that you actually put inside of your Roth account. Now, same thing, 20, 30, 40 years later, your money goes up 100 times. So now you still have $4 million in your account as well. It doesn't matter if you're taxed at the front or at the end, as long as you are in the same tax bracket, the numbers are going to work out the same. So let's take a look at a couple of realistic examples and see how your tax bracket might change over the years. So let's just assume that you're middle America, your average Joe, maybe you make, let's say, $40,000, $50,000 a year, whatever the case may be. And so currently, let's say, I don't know, you're paying 20% in taxes while you're earning that money. And you're saving some money for retirement, but not a whole lot. And so when you retire, your income level is going to drop from $50,000 down to whatever it is that you have with your investments and Social Security and that kind of stuff. So your income level is probably going to drop in retirement. So it's possible that instead of paying 20% while you're earning, you are only going to be paying 10% when you retire. So regardless of your situation, you want to choose to pay taxes whenever you're paying less. So in this case, you would want to pay taxes here at the end because you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire than when you are working. So for this person, you're going to want a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, whatever the case may be, because you're going to pay less in taxes at a future point in time and more today. So you want to put off your taxes to whenever it is that you're going to pay the least. Or it's possible, let's say for example, that you have a really awesome job. Maybe you are a doctor or something like that, right? And so you are making a ton of money. You're making several $100,000 a year. And so let's just say that you're hypothetically in like a 40% tax bracket. And maybe you're saving some decent amount of money or whatever the case may be, but whenever you stop working, you are also going to be stop getting that several $100,000 a year of income. So unless you have saved a significant amount of money into your retirement account, where your retirement account is going to also generate you several $100,000, you're going to be paying more in taxes here than you will here. So maybe you're earning and you're paying 40% taxes, but when you retire, it drops you down to, let's say, 20%. So same thing, you're going to want to pay taxes wherever your interest rate you think is going to be the least. And so if you're already paying a super high tax rate right now and you're not saving a whole lot of money, it's probable that you're going to be paying less in the future. So you would want a traditional IRA. But now let's flip that around a little bit. Let's say that you have a decent job right now, nothing crazy, but let's just say that you are earning and paying 15% taxes on your money, but you are really saving hard for investment. You're saving all of your pennies and nickels and dimes. You're being very, very frugal, and you're investing a lot of your money so that eventually your retirement account is extremely large. So if your retirement account is very, very large, you're going to be paying very, very high taxes. So it could be that now here you are going to be paying 40% when you retire because your account has grown so significantly because you're contributing a lot of money to your retirement account. So for somebody that is aggressive with their savings, you're going to want to pay taxes immediately. You're going to want a Roth retirement account. So the first thing to look at when you're determining which type of account you're going to get is, do you expect to be in a higher tax bracket now when you're earning the money, or later when you're actually retired and no longer working? But there's a couple of extra things that go into it, and some of it's out of our control. And so, for example, the government regularly changes the income tax brackets. So currently, the absolute highest federal income tax that you can pay is 37%. However, back in 1944, it reached an all-time high of 94% as a highest income tax bracket. And so these amounts change over the course of the years. So just because we're paying 37% now as the highest income tax doesn't necessarily mean that in the future we might pay 50, 60, 70%. Or who knows, we might only pay 20% in the future. It's hard to tell. However, if I were a betting man, I would say that our taxes are probably going to go up in the future. America's in a lot of debt, and at some point we got to start paying for that debt. And the only way to pay for it is to generate more money, and that means higher taxes. Now, 37% is not the absolute lowest that the maximum interest tax rate has been. I think it dropped below 30% for a couple of years, but it is definitely on the lower side of things as opposed to, let's say, 94%. So I think it's very, very possible that in the future our taxes are likely going to go up, which makes it beneficial to pay taxes immediately while you're earning it, as opposed to later on when these taxes go up. So that kind of favors the Roth retirement account if you think that taxes are going to go up in the future. Another factor to keep in mind is that a traditional account has what's called a required minimum distribution. Once you turn age 72, you must start withdrawing money from your traditional account. And this is because you haven't paid taxes on this money yet, and the government wants those tax dollars. That's how they fund the government. That's how they build roads and pay firefighters and education and all that kind of stuff. So they want their money. So starting at age 72, you have to start withdrawing from your traditional retirement account, which means you start paying taxes on that money. However, with a Roth retirement account, you've already paid taxes. The government's already got their money. They don't care what you do with it after that. So there is no required minimum distributions. So theoretically, you can leave that money in your Roth account forever until you die. And that might be beneficial, especially if you have done relatively well and you don't necessarily need that money in your retirement account to live off of. You have other investments that you can use that money instead. And so you can continue to let your money grow completely tax-free, and then ultimately when you pass away, your children will inherit it, and so it will continue to allow that money to grow to the maximum amount possible so that you can give your kids a very nice chunk of change when it is that you pass away. So if you think you're going to do pretty well and you may not even need that money in your retirement account, that's definitely something for a pro for a retirement account. is that you don't have to start withdrawing that money once you turn 72. You have the option to let it continue to grow if you want. Another nice thing about a Roth retirement account is that you can withdraw your contributions at any point. Completely tax-free, penalty-free, all that stuff. Now, I usually don't recommend withdrawing from your retirement account because that's just reducing the amount of money that you'll have in retirement. But in some situations of extreme emergency, it does make sense to withdraw that money early, because what's the point of having a bunch of money when you're 70 if you're homeless when you're 30? There are some extreme situations where you might need to tap into that retirement account. So with a Roth retirement account, you are able to withdraw your contributions at any point for whatever reason. And this gives you a nice little buffer should some extreme emergency happen, where you're able to tap into that retirement account and get a little bit of money to get you through that rough spot. So in our example, where we made $5,000 a year for 10 years and then paid taxes on that money immediately when we earned it, so we deposited $40,000, we contributed $40,000 to our Roth account. We are then able to withdraw this $40,000 at any point we want, tax and penalty free. Now, as time goes by and we start to gain interest and this money starts to grow, let's say this money, this $40,000 has turned into $100,000 because we left it in there for a handful of years, we can still only withdraw 40 of that $100,000 tax and penalty free. If you try to withdraw any of your gains, your profits, prior to turning the appropriate retirement age, you do face some penalties on that. But your contributions can be taken out at any point. This is in contrast to a traditional IRA. Now, remember, with a traditional IRA, you still haven't paid taxes when you put it in. So obviously when you take it out, whether that's in retirement or if you take it out early, you're going to be paying taxes on that. But with a traditional, if you take any money out early, you're going to pay a 10% penalty on top of all of your normal taxes that you would owe. You're going to owe an extra 10% penalty. So that's definitely going to be a pro for the Roth retirement account, because it gives you a little bit of flexibility where you can withdraw that money, your contributions, penalty free. And once again, I don't recommend withdrawing money early, but there are a few extreme situations where it might be beneficial. So at least with this situation, you have the option to do it if that makes sense for you. And the last thing to keep in mind when trying to decide versus a traditional or a Roth, one of the things that's nice about a Roth retirement account is that since you've already paid the taxes and you don't have to worry about any taxes in the future, when it does come time to withdrawing this money, you don't have to give any thought to the withdrawal process because there's no taxes associated with it. So theoretically, you might withdraw just a little bit of this money each and every year to live off of, but maybe there's a significant life event where you get very, very sick. I don't know, you get diagnosed with cancer or something terrible like that, where you're going to have some very, very expensive medical bills. And so maybe there's 1 year where you have to withdraw a significant amount of money from your account in order to pay for that medical expense or whatever it was. So in a Roth account, it doesn't matter how much money you withdraw at any one given time because you've already paid taxes on that money. And that is going to be in contrast to a traditional IRA, because with a traditional account, you haven't paid taxes yet, and so you're going to be paying taxes when you withdraw that money. So if you withdraw a significant amount of money in one particular year, as opposed to kind of spreading it out little by little over a course of a long period of time, if you have the same medical emergency and you have to withdraw a significant amount of money all at once in a traditional IRA, that means you have a significant amount of income for that year, which means you're going to pay a very high tax rate on that money. So it's possible, if you were to withdraw this entire $4 million all at once, you're likely going to be paying that full, currently 37% tax bracket, the highest possible tax bracket. And so obviously that's going to be a con, for the traditional, or a pro for the Roth, however you want to look at it, is because with the Roth, it gives you the flexibility. You can either withdraw a little bit every single year to live off of, or if there is some big life event, you can withdraw it all at once. It doesn't matter as far as your taxes go. But with the traditional, you're going to be paying a lot of money in taxes if you need, for whatever reason, to withdraw a bunch of money all at once in one particular year to cover a life emergency. So that's kind of the down and dirty version of the pros and cons of each one of these types of accounts. So I think for most people, especially if you're saving at least a modest amount of money each and every month into your retirement accounts, if you're watching other videos in this channel to try to get a good sense and grasp of your personal finances, I think a Roth account is going to be the best account for the majority of people. Not only does it, at least in my opinion, give you more money at the end, because hopefully you're saving a bunch of money, and so you're going to have a bunch of money in your retirement account. So you want to pay taxes now while you're paying a little bit of money in taxes, as opposed to later when you've built up a significant nest egg. So hopefully it's going to save you some money, as well as give you better flexibility options. Like I said, it does not have a required minimum distribution, so theoretically you can keep on letting that money grow and grow and grow completely tax-free. And if you don't need it, great, give it to your kids as a nice inheritance. Live off some of your other investments if you've got it. And it gives you the flexibility to withdraw your contributions, in our example, this $40,000, if there is some sort of life-altering situation prior to you actually retiring. You can still withdraw a little bit of money, try to get you through that tough time if you absolutely need to. And it gives you better flexibility when you're withdrawing your money in retirement, because you can withdraw a little bit at a time or a lot at a time. It doesn't really matter. But with a traditional, if you withdraw a lot in any particular year, you're probably going to pay a lot in taxes. So with a traditional, you kind of want to space it out evenly over the course of your remaining years in retirement. So if you learned something from this video, please make sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and helps channels grow to help educate more and more users just like yourself. And as always, I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.